Welcome boys and girls from YouTube. My name is Sloth, this is the Sloth Forge, and thanks a lot for stopping by. In today's video, I want to talk about the Poison School, and just first give you a general overview about the Poison School, then talk about some of the most frequently used Poison heroes, and then about how to build a strong Poison team, and then finally also about, just in general, some gear recommendations, stats, and talents. But well, now let's get into this. As I said, first, about the school in general. And when talking about the Poison debuff, or the Poison School, it is all built around the Poison debuff. And if you ever played another gacha game, or most likely any other game out there that has some gacha mechanics or some roleplay element involved, you're most likely already familiar with the Poison element, or with the mechanic of Poison. And here in Dragonheir, it is pretty much the same as it is at most of the times. It's just a damage over time. And the damage over time here, those Poison debuffs, those tick every 5 seconds, and they scale with 3 stats. First, they scale with the enemy max HP, which is always cool, especially for all kind of boss content. This is always nice. Scaling with enemy max HP can be very, very good. Then it scales with their own attack, so you want as much attack as somehow possible on all your Poison heroes, and then also it is derivative damage, so it also scales with enlightenment. So those are the 2 stats that you want on your heroes. You want enlightenment and attack. While enlightenment is most of the times the stat that scales a little bit better, so for your chest and your runes, you want enlightenment as a main stat and not attack. Apart from that, you want as much attack as well, but no crit rate at all is needed, only attack and enlightenment. And yeah, one more stat. Also, you need accuracy. This is the big downside. So if it would only be attack and enlightenment, then Poison would be way stronger. But you need accuracy as well to inflict those debuffs, which is, as I said, a little bit of a downside. But yeah, it is a little bit like this, for example, with Burn as well. So it is still absolutely fine. When it comes to, for example, to the Dauntless, you also need 3 stats. You need attack, crit rate, and crit damage. Now here with Poison, you need attack, enlightenment, and accuracy. So it's absolutely fine. It would probably most likely be a little bit overpowered if you would not need any accuracy. But yeah, you need accuracy to inflict those Poison debuffs, and yeah, there is no way around this. There are some exceptions where sometimes you don't want to build a Poison hero with accuracy, but in general, you want to build your Poison heroes always with enough accuracy. Also, can those poisons actually trigger poison explosions and deal a little bit of AoE damage, which can, in some areas, be extremely strong. Next, let's talk about the most frequently used Poison heroes and just in general about the strongest Poison heroes out there. Because a lot of those Poison heroes actually have very good potential. While the strongest damage dealer from the non-exclusive category is Twitch. This red here has extremely good damage potential, and it can even out damage Lothar in some particular teams. As with all Poison heroes, you want 3 stats: enlightenment, attack percentage, and accuracy. Also is Yathalia extremely strong. Now, it is not in all areas that she performs extremely good, but I saw a lot of teams and in a lot of different areas over the seasons now, where Yathalia did very good damage. So she definitely has a lot of potential as well. She's not as strong as Twitch, but also still a very strong hero. And when it comes to AoE areas, for example the endgame content of Season 2, Vikana is also extremely strong. So especially for AoE areas when there are a lot of enemies, then Vikana is going to perform better than Twitch and Yathalia. Just in general, to repeat it one more time, Twitch still is most of the time the strongest damage dealer out of those 3. And one more thing to mention just before I forget, Vikana can inflict one of those marks. She can mark an enemy, and to inflict this mark, she does not need any accuracy. So, for example, there are some teams where Twitch is your main carry, and if Twitch is built correctly and has a little bit of skill haste as well, he's actually able to reach the 40 cap of Poison stacks, or relatively close at least to 40 stacks. And if this is the case, then you don't want any other hero in your team to inflict poisons. Then you only want Twitch to inflict his poison debuffs. So, as I said, sometimes you don't want any other heroes except for your main DPS, Twitch or Yathalia, to inflict poisons. And then you obviously don't want to build accuracy on your other heroes, which is absolutely fine for Vikana, because she still brings 2 extremely valuable effects. First, she brings this very useful mark, which helps you to deal more damage, and as I said, does not need any accuracy. And also, does she bring an extremely strong passive. So most poison teams right now are using Vikana just because of her extremely useful passive. Even if you don't use her as your main DPS, you still can easily fit her into your poison team. And when it comes to the exclusive heroes, Sloth definitely is the MVP for poison. He's extremely strong and he has very strong damage potential, especially for long fights, and if you have a little bit of time to set up, he gets extremely strong. Because his damage scales with the poisons that are currently on the target, and you have a cap of 40 poisons, so this can deal very good damage. In theory, you can boost his damage even further, because you also can bring some additional poisons. For example, the thorny poisons from Yathalia, or the potent medicine poison debuffs from Slate. They also count as poison debuffs and help your Sloth to deal even more damage. So yeah, Sloth definitely a hero that is extremely strong. He is still not one of those heroes that you should prioritize from your selectors, from your exclusive selectors. If you get him, you can call yourself extremely lucky because he is very strong. But I would still not recommend you to go for Sloth first. First, I would definitely go for Labanis, Nastienka, or Flora. But, well, if you have him, he is very strong and is used in some extremely strong teams. And also a lot of fun. And he's also key for some of the fastest speedrun dungeon teams. So, yeah, a lot of fun that you can have with this hero. The other exclusive hero, I already talked about him real quick, Slade. One very cool thing about him is that he brings potent medicine, which is just another way to another poison debuff. It's pretty much the same as a poison debuff, just an additional stack. So it helps your Sloth to deal more damage. And apart from that, he can deal very good damage as well. I think I would just refer to him as an upgraded version of Twitch. And if you know Twitch, Twitch can deal very good damage, as I said now more than once. And Slade can deal even a little bit more damage. So also a very strong hero. But if you want to go for one exclusive hero, then you should definitely prioritize Sloth first. And the final legendary hero, Durango. He is not the strongest damage dealer out there, but he is very good to inflict the defense penalty with which remains. So also sees play in a lot of poison teams. And also in PvP, he can be very strong because of his passive, where he attacks all enemies at the start of the battle. So if you build him in the Holy Hunter set, for example, he can be very good in PvP as well. Now, let's talk about the epics just real quick as well. Here we have Shink and Eli, who are slightly versions of Durango, but can also deal a little bit of damage as well. So absolutely worth to try those heroes out if you don't have any of them yet mentioned legendary heroes. And Corrin is special. He is something different. He has something very special. He can refresh the duration of poison debuffs, which is extremely cool if you want to keep up the maximum of 40 poison debuffs as long as possible, especially for all those Sloth teams. So most Sloth teams out there use Corrin just because it makes it so much easier to keep up those 40 stacks and to make sure that your Sloth can always hit for the maximum damage with his ultimate. And finally, just an honorable mention is Dench. He's only a rare hero, but also very decent hero, honestly. He can do a good amount of damage, can inflict a lot of poison debuffs, and if you don't have any of the yet mentioned poison heroes, or only one of them, then you could definitely give Dench a try. Now, when it comes to team building, there are a lot of different options that you have. It depends on what heroes you have available right now. If you have Sloth, then you definitely want to build a team built around Sloth. So just heroes that can inflict a lot of poisons, where it is not as important how much damage those poisons deal. You just want to always have 40 poisons up when Sloth uses his ultimate. If you don't have Sloth, then all of this changes. Then you want to bring either Twitch, Vikana, or Yathalia, or maybe 2 or even 3 of those heroes. Always depends a little bit, as I said, on what you have available. If you have all 3 heroes, definitely you can use or try all of those 3 heroes. But then there is the question who you want to use which remains on. So maybe then you want to make room to cut one of those 3 heroes for Shink, Durango, or Eli, for example. However, then you want to build all those heroes with as much attack and enlightenment as possible. Or if you are very end game or late game and you have extremely good gear, then you can try to only build your Twitch with accuracy and then use Vikana only for her ultimate in her passive, but without her any accuracy. And just look what happens. And apart from that, yeah, you also want to bring one hero who can inflict the witch remains. And I also showed you some good alternatives to do this, so I'll pretty much hope or think that we covered the team building section now as well. Now, let's talk about the talents just real quick, because once again, it's the same answer as always. There are so many different talents and it always depends on what content you are currently facing. But in general, the top row, so those 3 talents, are the best ones for your main DPS hero. So the Soul Reaper just increases your enlightenment when calculating poison damage by 80, which is really strong. Then the Bind talent is also extremely cool, especially for low tier teams, because it makes it so much easier to reach the 40 poison stacks. And then the Rampage just increases your damage by 30%, which is very strong as well. Then apart from that, for your non-main damage dealers, you want to try some of those talents, where it depends a little bit. You want to bring one hero, for example with a Toxic Embrace, but only one hero, because as you can see, this effect does not stack. Apart from that, it really depends on your team and what you exactly want to do. For example, there is one talent, exactly this one, where your basic attacks have a chance to inflict poison. Now for Durango, this normally is not too good, because his poisons don't deal so much damage, because we don't build him with as much attack and enlightenment, but instead with a little bit of tankiness. So, and in general, his poisons just don't stack as good as Twitch, Euthalias or Vikanas. So why am I using this talent now on him? It is because I just want him to inflict as many poisons as somehow possible, because I'm using him in combination with Lothir. And yeah, that's pretty much. When it comes to poison, it's actually not too easy. There are a lot of different teams, as I just said, and it is a very complicated school, especially those talents. So here you really have to try around and just have a look on what talents fit the best for your current setup. And now, finally, let's talk about the gear and artifacts just real quick. As I said, for example, for Durango, you can use the Holy Hunter set, but this is something different, has nothing to do with poison in general. For poison, all of those sets that bring a little bit of accuracy can be good, but there are 2 extremely good sets. And yeah, you probably already know those sets if you watched my burn video. First, the Skyfire Sun set. This is extremely strong because it also, once again, it increases your poison damage by 35%. So this is even better than the level 6 talent, which is insane. So you definitely want to bring the Skyfire Sunset, even if the stats are not perfectly rolled, you still want to bring one Skyfire Sunset on your main DPS. And then for the bottom row, we have the Stonebreaker. This is also an extremely good set, because every single one of those poison stacks counts as a debuff, and you will easily reach the cap here of 20 stacks within a couple of seconds, 30 seconds or 40 seconds, I'm not sure. So those 2 sets, you definitely want to bring them. When it comes to artifacts, there are 2 poison artifacts. First, the Boomerang, the Rickier Boomerang, and then the Statue of the Serpent Deity. And here, it is very clear. Once again, it is very weird, but the Boomerang is recommended, but the Statue of the Serpent Deity is performing way better, in my opinion. And whenever I see other videos or other persons testing poison, showing their best teams, it's always that they are using the Statue of the Serpent Deity, and nearly never, like 1 out of 10 teams, uses the Boomerang. So for your first poison item, you definitely want to go for the Statue of the Serpent Deity. And then you, honestly, if you are free to play or low spender, you can skip the Boomerang for now, in my opinion. Apart from that, another extremely strong talent and artifact is the Queen's Fan, because it will increase your derivative damage, and well, all your poison damage is derivative damage. And also, since a lot of those poison heroes are actually ranged, Dawnpipe Organ is also very useful. And when talking about derivative damage and gear, there is one more set I want to talk about just real quick. It's the... where is it? Death Record set. Death Record set will inflict a mark on the enemy, which will increase his derivative damage taken by 20% for 12 seconds. And he always inflicts this mark when the target is dealt derivative damage from the wearer of this item. Now, I know I explained this super complicated, I'm sorry. What I'm trying to say is you only need one poison hero in the death record set. And you don't want to bring the death record set on your main DPS. Every poison hero that inflicts one poison can already inflict the death record mark. So it is easily enough to just use this on any hero, for example Durango or Corrin, but not your main damage dealer. Not on Yathalia, Durango can use it, but not Twitch, not Slade, not Lothair, and so on. And yeah, this is the last thing I wanted to mention. I really hope that I've mentioned everything now. If there's anything that you want to add, if you have any further questions, or whatever, please let me know in the comments below. And well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for stopping by, and see you in the next one.